Previously on A Body in Progress.
Too lost, but I think hotel being get a nice your fitness center. I went to bed really quite convinced that I had had quite enough, thank you, of the Mr. Olympia. Veronica Johnson, also known as Mrs. Tiger, was watching Vegas Part 2, and she noticed in the end credits under Celebrity Sightings I listed Mark Wahlberg, and she writes, "Wait a minute, you saw Mark Wahlberg?" The answer is, yes, I did, but when I laid out all of the material for Vegas Part 2, it was longer than 20 minutes, and I had to decide what to cut out. I decided to focus on those celebrity sightings where I was able to get a picture with that person, and I was not able to get a picture with Mark Wahlberg, so I decided to cut that portion of the video, but I accidentally left his name in the credits. Veronica saw it, and so now here I am addressing it anyway. As I was leaving the convention on Friday, as I was coming toward the front doors, I passed by the massive display by, I think, Flex magazine. I'm not even exactly sure who was responsible for it, but it had two tiers to it, and there was an upper level with tables and chairs, and I don't know what all went on there. I don't know if it was press junkets or what. But at that particular point in time, Mark Wahlberg had arrived, and he was up on that second level with a microphone, looking out over an adoring crowd and promoting either a new line of supplements that he was putting his name on, or a new gym that would be franchised across the country. I don't remember at this point. He was promoting something that he was going to be responsible for, or at least have his name on. I like Mark Wahlberg in the movies. I've never been disappointed, whether he's in an action film or a comedy. He actually is pretty good. He's you never would have thought that back when he was Marky Mark, but he's an enjoyable actor. I'm not such a rabid fan that I was willing to wait in the hour to 2 hour line that was forming just to shake his hand and maybe get his autograph. I don't know. So I satisfied myself with this one picture of him addressing the crowd before I headed out. So there it is. There's your Mark Wahlberg celebrity sighting. Saturday, September 14th, day 2 of the Fitness Expo, for me, almost didn't happen. When I went to bed the night before, I was pretty convinced that there was nothing for me. Why am I here? And I'll just get up on Saturday and start the next part of my trip. When I woke up on Saturday, I thought, well, I've paid for it. I bought the 2-day pass. I'll go ahead and go back and see if anything different happens, see if I can spot anybody. And one thing I did before I left the hotel was I actually went scrolling quickly through my Instagram, my list of people I follow, looking for any of them who were saying, hey, I'm here at the Expo, hope to see you. And actually managed to put together a fairly sizable list, so that then I could say, okay, now I have people that I can actually look for, instead of just wandering through this crowd and hoping to maybe recognize a face of someone I've never even met. I've only seen their photos online. I now have some actual identifiable names on a piece of paper, so I can be wandering through that expo hall going, okay, these people say they're here. And that actually helped. I came across quite a few of them. I'm going to group day 2 by theme, not necessarily by timeline. So first, here are the personal trainers, the workout models, the people that inspire and motivate me that I managed to spot, even if I didn't want to wait in line to get a photo with them, or maybe they were in a hurry going somewhere. Anyway, here's that collection. In order, the first one that I managed to find was Jason Poston, and I managed to find him because on his Instagram feed he told the world exactly where he would be, what booth he would be repping at. And so I passed by that, I saw him there. The line to actually meet him was over an hour long, and as much as he does inspire me, as much as I like his content and his the knowledge that he shares on Twitter and Instagram, I'm not an hour-long person. I don't know if there's anybody on this planet I would wait an hour in line just to shake hands with and say, hi, great to meet you, and then move on. Maybe someday I'll find him in a much shorter line somewhere, because he is someone that in the fitness world and in my fitness pursuits, I do look up to. I know this face, and I want to say Mike O'Hearn. He looks very much like the Mike O'Hearn photos I find on Google, but he seemed to just be just a little bit different enough that I'm going, is that actually him, or am I confusing him with someone else? But I'm going to say Mike O'Hearn. One of the younger fitness phenomenons coming up is Jeff Seid, or Seid, I'm not sure. I've never heard his last name said out loud by anyone who knows for sure. But he worked out for years at a gym up in Seattle. I have a friend who worked out at the same gym. That is my closest connection to Jeff. I've never met him, and I didn't stand in line to shake hands. Well, I know he's a legend. Ronnie Coleman was there signing his autobiography. I did not purchase the autobiography. Ronnie does fall into that category of people I talked about yesterday when I talked about the actual Mr. Olympia bodybuilding show. He's so big and so far beyond what I want to be that he personally does not inspire me. I appreciate the work that goes into getting that big, but I personally did not have any reason to stand in line and say hi to him. I recognized Sadiq Hadzovic, one of the stars of The Perfect Physique. He's not someone I follow, but I did know the face, so there's that one. This is Daniel James. He is someone I follow on Instagram from the United Kingdom. The photo has kind of an interesting story there. I knew from Instagram that he would be there, and so I was keeping my eye out for him. And just in wandering around during the day, I think by now this was the afternoon, I just saw this tall guy go by, and he had 2 or 3 people with him, including apparently a girlfriend. And they were moving fast, and they were clearly looking for something. It was almost like they were late to something. They were looking really fast. I stalked him for a little bit, thinking I just want to get a picture. I don't even need to stop him and get a picture with him because he's obviously busy. But if I can get a picture, and he was turning this way and that way, and he happened to turn right toward my camera, and I quickly snapped the photo. So you see kind of that panicked, we're late look on his face. The moment after I snapped the photo, that look went from panicked to, who are you, get out of my way. It all happened in about 2 seconds. He didn't actually speak to me, but after the look that I saw on his face when I took the photo, I knew I was not even going to try to stop him and get a picture with him. But maybe someday, I don't know. And then finally, Caleb Von Moger from Australia, who is, he's been dubbed the new Mr. Schwarzenegger, or Mr. Arnold, and in fact just played Arnold Schwarzenegger in a film biography of Arnold and his rise to prominence in the bodybuilding world. And now the 3 people that I actually got to meet, however briefly, and get a photo with them. And first, I was walking through the convention hall. I saw a face that I thought I recognized. This guy, unlike Daniel James, was walking quite slowly and calmly, just looking around. He had a few friends with him. But I came up, and at that point, I couldn't remember who I was looking at. I knew it was someone I knew. And so I came up to him and I said, you're someone I know. Where are you from? And he said, Scottsdale, Arizona. And that's all it took. It reminded me, okay, Dan Rockwell, yes. And so I told him I was a fan on Instagram, appreciated his efforts and his motivation, and got that photo right there. Our encounter was maybe 30 seconds, but he was very pleasant. No hint of attitude or why are you interrupting my walk through the convention. Seemed very glad to pause and shake hands and hear from a fan and take a photo. If those 30 seconds reflect his general personality in life, he's a good man to get to know. And so if you ever meet him, take that opportunity. I could say the same thing about another Instagram user that I spotted and got a photo with, Timmy Berry. He lives down in San Diego, California. I don't know that he would be considered a celebrity at this point, but he does have a personal training business and a good presence on Instagram. So when I saw him, I popped over. I actually had my phone open to his account at that point. Now, how did it happen? That's it. I was walking along and I saw what I thought was him in this long line to go to something, I don't know what. And it was moving very, very slowly. So I went back out of the convention hall because you could only get Wi-Fi in the dining common area. So I went out of the convention hall. I quickly found the Timmy Berry account, and I said, okay, I think that's him. And then I went way back into the convention hall. So this was about 10 minutes later, and I think they had moved about 10 feet. So there was no loss there, no danger of not being able to find him again. And I actually showed him my phone. I said, "Now, is that you?" And he said, "Yes." So got this photo with Timmy Berry. And again, nice guy, seemed very happy to meet a fan. Is fan the right word? I feel like here I am, a 45-year-old guy meeting some of these younger guys. I don't know if fan. I'm an appreciateur of of their efforts and the way they motivate me. But yeah, another cool guy. And finally, the one that I consider my big score for the entire trip. This is a man that I have followed for a couple of years now on Body Space and Twitter and Instagram. And everywhere he puts himself out there, he comes across as a very level-headed, down-to-earth, normal guy who just happens to have worked out a lot and have a great body. So I don't ever detect anywhere on any of his social media that he has let his quality physique or the attention that it has probably gotten him go to his head. He's a family man. He's married. He recently had a kid. He clearly is in love with his family, just judging by his social media. He's just seemed like an all-around great guy. Great sense of humor, too. Always posting hilarious memes. And so when I found out he was going to be there, that was somebody I knew I wanted to connect with. And I had that opportunity. I was walking along and I saw his booth. His name is Brandon, careful now, Foken. And in person, he really is everything that he exudes on social media. He was very friendly. He was talking with everybody who wanted to talk with him. I stopped to get a picture with him. And then my thought was, this guy's busy. I should say thanks for the photo, nice to meet you, and step out. And he started talking. And I think we ended up having about a 5-minute conversation. And the whole time my brain is going, I hope I'm not intruding here. I should step aside and let the next customer or the next fan come in and get a photo. But he really just seemed to enjoy conversing. And so I did. But then eventually I did excuse myself and move on. Yeah, I went ahead and splurged for 1 jar of his Foken Nuts peanut butter. Yes, Foken Nuts. We are one vowel sound away from this episode not being family friendly. But I thought I'd give it a try. It's $10 a jar. So 6 months later, it's still in my fridge unopened. Because at that price, I want to save it until I am actually counting calories and want to know exactly how many calories I am putting on a peanut butter sandwich or into a protein shake. And I want to save it for when I am on a specific crusade to avoid the oils and such that come in manufactured peanut butter. So this stuff is gold. I just don't want to save it so long that it goes bad and I don't get my $10 worth to any degree. So there's that. Foken Nuts, check them out. When I try it, I will actually give you a review. Although I did have a sample, I had a couple of samples at his booth. And it's pretty good. And then there was the third element of my second day at the Expo. Here I was in Nevada. Who knows when I'd get back. And I have this challenge that I've given myself of 50 push-ups in 50 states. And so, thinking about doing 50 push-ups right there in the middle of the Mr. Olympia Fitness Expo was a lot easier than actually doing them. I know you may not be able to tell by watching this video series, but in person I am fairly shy, fairly timid, and rather self-conscious about looking silly in public. About doing something that has people walk by and going, what is that guy doing? Or who does he think he is? Running through my mind was just the idea that everybody's going to turn and stare. And in their heads they're going to be going, what? So I had to just tell myself to go for it. We all have a lot of fears that really come to nothing. I'm looking at this video footage of this one set, and almost nobody is turning to look and see what I was doing. I know deep down inside that a lot of my self-conscious fears of being the object of ridicule are unfounded. And there you have it. 50 push-ups are in the books for the state of Nevada. That's all I have to show you, and that's all I have to say about the Fitness Expo. I ended up staying until they actually closed on day 2, just because that's how long it took to find the people I wanted to find and to get up the courage to do 5 sets of 10 push-ups each. But again, I did not stay for the second night of the bodybuilding competition. That was strictly a budgetary issue back when I was buying tickets. Before I left town, I did stop by the Chick-fil-A that was right across from the Palace Station Hotel. Back in September, that was an opportunity to really make my friends in Central Oregon jealous, because I have acquaintances in the area who love Chick-fil-A. They will practically kill to get Chick-fil-A, and Central Oregon did not have one. I am now recording this a couple of months after Bend, Oregon acquired a Chick-fil-A, and so the opportunity to rub it in everyone's faces is now gone. By the time I got out of the city limits of Las Vegas, it was already fairly dark, so I don't have any travel footage at that time, but as the evening wore on, I did cross the border into that upper left corner of Arizona. And a few minutes later, I don't know, half an hour, I don't remember specifically, I crossed the border into the southern corner of Utah, and I spent the night in the parking lot of a Denny's in St. George. The convenient part of that is when I woke up in the morning, breakfast was right there. But then I continued on my way and continued to follow the highways that weave back and forth between Utah and Arizona. It's actually quite interesting. They just kind of go up and down and up and down and up and down. And what you may have noticed by now is that on this portion of my trip, I was not headed on a fast track back to Oregon. This is true. In fact, by the time I reached Kanab, Utah, I was not headed anywhere fast.